Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about competition because the truth is, if you're doing something that you think customers are willing to pay for, probably somebody else is doing it as well. And what you want to know is, how are you going to win? So let's recap. If you're just joining us to look at competition, that's great. You may find that you want to go back and look at some of the last projects because what we've done so far is we've considered, first of all, what value do we offer a customer? That's customer proposition. And also how the customer sees this problem and what they would do if they were to make a switch, if they were to buy a better solution. That's called customer discovery. But if we have indeed identified a problem that's worth solving, now we want to know who else is solving it. One thing that people do wrong is sometimes think about it too narrowly. So we have specific competitors, any company or individual doing what we're doing, making a product that competes with ours. But there are other competitors as well. Anyone who's providing any other service or product that could prevent somebody from choosing my product is also a competitor. It could be other solutions that allow a workaround. They don't need to address my problem directly, or the biggest competitor doing nothing. We always have to remember that the customer doesn't necessarily have to make any choice. The customer can always stick with what they're doing, no matter how problematic it might be. So let's look at the dog walking example that we've used in the past. We have our direct or micro competitors. That would be anyone else who's walking a dog in my general vicinity. But on a macro basis, there's any other solution that the pet owner might choose. The pet owner might choose to do it themselves, or they might just choose to leave the dog in the backyard. Those are all competitors to what I'm doing. I also want to look at who is providing competitive services. Who else might be able or interested in walking my dog? And I want to look at what they offer. Even within something like dog walking, there are many types of products, and I want to understand what the competition is doing. So using the dog walking example, there are simple things like time and duration. How long is the typical walk that my competitors offer? How frequently do they walk the dog? Will they walk the dog twice a day, or is it always just once? And how much flexibility is there? Does the owner get to set the timing? There are probably other factors. We're just highlighting a few. Special services. Do I just walk the dog, or maybe do I provide some training? I obedience train them. I get them used to the leash. Or maybe my dog has certain sensibilities. I want my dog to experience and interact with other dogs. Or there might be other options based on group size. Do my competitors all offer solo walks? Are they large groups? Does the customer have a choice? All of these things are basis for competition. So I've looked at all the other offerings that my customer might look at, but the number one competition for every business is apathy, inertia, doing nothing. You actually have to be literally better than nothing, and that can be hard. Think about it in your own life. The easiest thing often can be to just stick with whatever you have, even if it's inferior, even if it's a workaround. When I moved to my first apartment, I'm not proud of this, but I had a chopstick holding my kitchen sink together. That was working okay for me. So the plumber wasn't competing with another plumber. They were competing with that chopstick. And you know what? The chopstick won. I didn't want to make a change. It just wasn't worth it to me. And so that's something you also have to bear in mind. What is going to force the customer to stop doing what they're doing and choose you? We also want to think about how large the market is. Now, there's a concept called TAM, you'll hear a lot, or total addressable market. That's the total potential customers, whether the number of customers or it's often expressed in terms of the dollar value of the services. But in the dog walking example, what is my total market? Is it all of Manhattan? Is it just the Lower East Side? Or is it perhaps just my neighborhood? I have to think about this because with a larger target, of course, there are more potential customers. I could make more money. But I'm also going to face a lot more competition, and it's going to be harder for me to reach those customers because they're all over the place. With a smaller target, of course, I am limiting myself in terms of the number of potential customers, but I'm going to have less competition. And importantly, I can reach those customers more directly. So oftentimes when I'm starting out, I want to limit my addressable market. Over time, I can always expand. So with all these things in mind, I really want to think about my competitive positioning. Where do I think I can get to? But perhaps more importantly, where am I going to start? This is sometimes called a SOM, or serviceable obtainable market, the part that I can get to right now with the resources that I have. I want to understand my competition. I want to talk about other companies or providers that are similar to mine and other solutions, other things my customer might be doing that would keep them from buying my product or service. And with this in mind, I want to really start to think about my uniqueness. And for this, I'm going to bring in everything that I've already thought about value proposition, about customer discovery, what makes me special, what gives me an edge versus all of this competition that I have now analyzed. This is called a unique selling proposition, or USP. This is what I'm going to use to define my business and to convince customers to buy my product or service. This is a lot to think about. And so one product that people use in this type of analysis is a SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So strengths, that's what we've just been thinking about. What is your business particularly good at? Weaknesses. Where are you lacking? Where are you weaker? Every business has some weaknesses. So it's better to know up front. Maybe go back to the dog walker. Maybe it's only me. So there's a limit to the number of dogs I can walk. I can't walk everybody exactly at noontime. What am I going to do about that? If I don't address my weaknesses, I can't address them. Opportunities. Based on the thinking that I've done about the marketplace and the competitors, where are the gaps? Where are the competitive weaknesses that I might be able to take advantage of? And lastly, threats. Beyond just myself and the competition, there are things going on in the world, in the market, in the economy that might affect me. I want to think about those as much as possible. I can't control them, but what can I do to minimize the risk? And so project 3, we're going to look at how do we think about the competition? Who does my company compete with? Directly, indirectly, in terms of that broader pool of people who could be an alternative to me, even if I don't think of them as providing the same product or service. What are my strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? I can use a SWOT analysis if I wish. We have a link to a SWOT form and a worksheet to do all of this on our website. And then using what I've learned, how can I underscore my strengths, seize opportunities that I've identified, and offset some of the weaknesses and threats that are always out there for every business? And in doing this project, we want you to do it 2 ways. First of all, do it yourself. You've done all this analysis. What do you think? What have you learned? And then use AI, use an LLM. Ask them the same questions. Now, importantly, the LLM is not right. The LLM is just going to provide you, honestly, with sort of consensus opinion. But it could show you things that you've missed. Use it to test your thinking. Use it to broaden your opinions, test your assumptions, but don't assume that it's right. So that's this week's module. Next week, we're going to talk about the business model canvas, which is taking what we've learned here and really starting to think about the business of providing our product or service. As always, if you have any questions, you can contact us directly or go to our portal, paddlingfuriously.com/portal, ask your question there or answer other business owners' questions. On our website, you can also find more articles and resources. There's a link in the show notes to more information on competition, to the worksheets on competition that we discussed here. So check it out, and we'll see you next week.